Hey there, budgeteers. Are you ready to unlock the power of each payday and take control of your finances like a boss? Introducing the Payday Power Planner from New Money Habits. This isn't your average budgeting tool. Oh no. With the Payday Power Planner, you'll harness the unique rhythm of your paychecks to supercharge your financial game. Say goodbye to the confusion of monthly budgets and hello to the clarity of every payday. You'll know exactly when money is coming in and when it's going out, giving you the edge you need to stay on top of your finances. But that's not all. With the Payday Power Planner, you'll easily spot whether you're rocking a surplus or facing a deficit. Armed with this knowledge, you'll make informed decisions that set you up for financial success. It's time to transform your relationship with money and create the new money habits you need to achieve financial freedom. Get your hands on the Payday Power Planner from New Money Habits today and start making every dollar count. Don't let financial stress hold you back. Create a better plan for your money and seize the power of your pay period and thrive with the Payday Power Planner. Visit newmoneyhabits.com now to grab your free copy and unleash your financial potential. On this episode of the New Money Habits podcast, we're going to answer Devon's question about her high school grad's $1,000 windfall. What's up, budgeteers, and welcome to the New Money Habits podcast. I'm your host and one of the co-founders of New Money Habits, Coach Nino. And today on the New Money Habits podcast, we're going to help Devon maximize a teachable moment for her son, a recent high school graduate. If you have any questions, be sure to hit us up on social at New Money Habits and follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or wherever you like to listen to your podcasts. If you want to help out the show, consider leaving a 5-star rating and review. We cannot thank you enough for those 5-star ratings and reviews. They truly help us to spread this message of hope to people looking for a better plan for their money. Now let's get into today's episode. Devon took to Facebook and posted this. She said, "Our oldest just graduated high school. He received about $1,000 cash from family and friends." She goes on to say, "I would like him to use most of it as a nest egg to start investing, and I was going to recommend a CD for him. Are there other simple ways to invest this?" She goes on to say, "I think it is better for him to not have access, at least for a period of time, but wanted other opinions." She lets us know that he will work part-time this summer, enter community college in the fall. It says we will be paying tuition, so I take it she and her husband will be paying tuition for community college, as her son will live at home and transfer to another local university to complete his undergraduate program in 2 years, using cash currently in a custodial account. First of all, I commend Devon's vulnerability. She's searching for a good use for this $1,000. She's looking for good advice to give to her son as he's entering into adulthood. And so I think this is an incredible teaching moment. Right? This is a teachable moment both for Devon as a mother and for her son as a young adult. And so my advice at first would be, let's kind of slow down, take a step back, and ensure a few things. One, everyone needs a plan. And so, Devon, that would mean you and your husband need to have a plan that you can share with your son. And so what does that look like? Well, at bare minimum, to manage your money well, you should have a budget. We offer a Payday Power Planner that helps you to budget according to your paydays and not just according to the month, but that'll help you to take a look at your income and your expenses. It'll help you to identify whether or not you have a surplus or deficit so that you can begin to manage either the surplus well or manage the expenses and the income to reduce and eliminate the deficit. Your plan should also include eliminating unwanted debt and managing credit wisely. And so if you and your husband have a plan that does those things, you should be sharing that with your recent high school graduate. And if not, you should establish one so that you can share those elements with your recent high school graduate. But as far as your son goes, I'm guessing, based off of your post and just his age, that his financial situation is basically non-existent. And so your son's plan can actually be better than your own plan. As a parent and as a working adult, you've taken on a ton of responsibilities that your son simply doesn't have. And so your son can actually establish really good money habits right now, because right now he doesn't have good habits, but he doesn't have bad habits. He just doesn't have any habits. And so there's an opportunity for you to advise and guide your son in an ideal setting, in a setting where you may wish, man, I wish your father and I could do this, but we can't, but you can. And so let's guide your son with the best plan that we can come up with. And so when you're helping a young adult or a child learn how to appreciate the value of money and how to manage it well, every time they get money, they should already have a plan for what is that money going to do and how is it going to be broken up. And so there are 4 ways to break up income every time your child gets some money. And ideally, this is how you would break up your income every time you got paid. But a lot of us don't get these lessons early enough to implement them. And so we have to kind of clean up a mess before we can find ourselves in a position to do what I'm about to outline here. So for your son and for any child, anytime they get birthday money, if they get money at Christmas time, during the holidays, throughout the year for any other reason, or at graduation, there should be 4 things that they're considering always, that you should encourage them and build up these money habits with them. The first is giving. Every time your child gets some money, if they set aside 10% for giving, in this case of $1,000, that would be $100. And you're going to teach your child to be compassionate and generous. That every time they get money, that they can bless somebody else who is in need, just will give them a heart of compassion and generosity. And so out of this $1,000, if $100 was set aside for giving, again, that would go a long way to teach your son generosity and just compassion for others in need. Also, saving 10% is just a good habit, right? So another $100 socked away into a savings account, and we'll talk about the different types of savings accounts in a little bit. The third category is investing for one's future. So saving is more about an immediate need or something that comes up that we need to take care of right now. Investing is thinking long-term and planning. And so if we were doing 25% into investing, that would be $250 in this situation. $250 to start investing would be, again, just a really good habit, actually a better habit than saving alone. And we'll talk about investment options a little bit later. The fourth category is then spending. So if we gave 10% away, and if we saved 10%, and if we invested 25%, well, we've used up 45% of this $1,000. We've used up $450. It leaves $550 to spend. So this is a great opportunity to, again, set some parameters around how to handle money every time your son gets paid, is gifted money. Anytime he comes into money, if he can think to himself, every time I get money, 10% goes to giving, 10% goes to saving, 25% goes to investing, and I get to spend the remaining 55%, these would be really healthy habits. And in this particular situation, I know in your post you said you don't want him to have access to it now, but I think you need to help your son make some good financial decisions and provide a safe to fail environment for him to make some mistakes early. Again, a few moments ago, I mentioned, as parents, we have all these responsibilities. We have a mortgage to pay. We have to put food on the table and keep the lights on and the water running. We got to make sure that we're meeting the needs for our children. And so we have all these responsibilities. But your 18-year-old who just graduated high school doesn't have any of these responsibilities. And so this is the time for your son to make mistakes with money, to spend some of it frivolously on stupid things that he is most likely going to regret. But if you implement these 4 categories, then he's only able to make mistakes with a portion of it, not with the entire amount. And so he's going to be doing some good things with a portion of that, and he's going to be at risk for doing some bad things with a portion of that. But again, I would suggest $100 into savings, $250 into investing, $550 to spend, and $100 to give. And this would just allow your son to have a well-rounded experience with this $1,000. Again, that compassion and generosity, the idea of saving some and not spending it all, the idea of investing and starting to learn what that looks like, and how money can grow, how you can actually take money and have it make more money for you, and then having an opportunity to spend. Making mistakes is a part of learning, right? So going out and buying some gadget or some toy that he loses interest in, in a few months, or to spend a bunch of it on food that he never sees kind of the fruit of that labor. These are all part of the learning process to determine how to spend money in a healthy way. And part of that spend, so after you've given 10 and you've saved 10 and you've invested 25, that 55% that you're going to spend, that can also include that good habit of having a budget and having categories that you want to spend on. Making an allowance for spending on food, but not making it, the whole $550. So taking a look at, what do you want to spend on? Do you want to spend on a video game or on some clothing or on food, and putting some parameters around how much of the $550 will be spent in these categories will also teach your son how to budget. And so there's an incredible teaching moment here to help your son, and maybe as a byproduct, help yourself understand how to manage money well every time money comes in. You mentioned that your son's going to start part-time work. So imagine if you can help to teach him these habits right now, starting with this $1,000, and then as his paychecks come in, every time the paycheck comes in, 10% goes to giving, 10% goes to saving, 25% goes to investing, and 55% goes into spending. And then from that spending, you help them to build parameters around how much is going to be spent on food and clothing and other either necessities or even some wants. These are the healthy money habits that you have an opportunity right now to really impart on your son. And so I'll end this segment with kind of a rhetorical question, and that is, when would you rather your children make mistakes with money? Now, when he's 18, or later when he's 35, married and has children? So I would strongly encourage you to let him get his hands on some of the money, not all of the money, but also make him be the one who is executing through the giving of $100, the saving of $100, the investing of $250, and the spending of $550. And so, again, would you rather he make those mistakes now or later when he has a number of different responsibilities he's got to take care of? Hey there, budgeteers. Good news can only be good news if there's bad news. So what's the bad news? The bad news is you and I have a deadly disease called sin, and this disease causes us to rebel and disobey God. See, God is holy, righteous, and just, and He cannot be in the presence of sin. So this horrible disease of ours separates us from the God who created us. And the bad news gets worse. There isn't anything you or I can do to make ourselves right with God. We are dead in our sins and on our way to an eternity separated from God. But that's not God's will for us. See, for God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whoever believes in Him should not perish, but have everlasting life. God did what only God could do. He made a way for us to be reconciled to Him through Jesus Christ. Jesus came into the world to save sinners like you and me. While we were still sinners, storing up God's anger against us for our rebellion and disobedience, Christ died for us. Jesus took the punishment that you and I deserve and have earned. Jesus is the substitute for your punishment and mine. Now, isn't that some good news? The word gospel means good news. The gospel of Jesus Christ is that you and I broke God's law and Jesus paid the fine. When we place our faith and trust in Jesus, we get to experience God's grace and mercy. Our gratitude should turn us from our rebellious and disobedient sin toward God, seeking after Him and His righteousness. When we do, God gives us a new heart and a new mind. Praise God for His goodness, and remember, God loves, humans sin, Jesus saves. Okay, and so earlier I mentioned we'll talk about a couple of different saving options and a couple of different investing options. So let's run through in this scenario that we're using, the 18-year-old high school graduate who comes into $1,000. We want to take 10% of that and we want to save it. And there's essentially maybe 3 different ways you can save. One, you can stuff it in a mattress. I would not recommend stuffing your cash in a mattress or having cash at the house as your primary form of savings. And so then you have basic saving option. You open up a basic savings account, you're going to get a really small interest rate. And so I wouldn't even necessarily recommend that. What I would recommend is a high yield savings account. High yield savings account is going to give you a better interest rate. There are so many high yield savings accounts nowadays that there is no required minimum balance. And so you don't have to have thousands of dollars in that account. You can open it with $25 and then contribute to it. As I said earlier, every time money comes in, take 10% of it and put it in this high yield savings account. And the rates right now, as the recording of this podcast in May of 2024, interest rates are pretty decent on a high yield savings account. So if you're going to park some money, but you want your money to make you a little bit of money, a high yield savings account, you can get north of 4%, and in some cases even 5% on money that you're just parking for kind of a rainy day. We like to call it the peace of mind fund. And the peace of mind fund is exactly that. It gives you peace of mind. As life happens, you don't have to concern yourself because you know that you have money set aside that's liquid, but that's also growing and not just sitting stagnant, parked for those times when life happens. And so those are your saving options. You can save cash at home, put it in a basic savings account, or put it in a high yield savings account. And I would suggest opening up a high yield savings account. So as far as investing, Davon, in your post, you had mentioned a certificate of deposit, a CD, and that is an investment option. It's not one that I find particularly attractive, but we're going to take 25%. We're going to take $250 and we're going to invest it in something. And so a CD is something that you could invest it in, but truth be told, certificates of deposits are giving this about the same interest rate currently as a high yield savings. So you're not much better off putting it in a CD where you can't touch it. If you wanted to put it in something similar to a certificate of deposit, you could invest in iBonds. iBonds are going to offer a better interest rate than a certificate of deposit and have some of the same rules about not being able to touch the money for a period of time. And you can withdraw it after, say, like 12 months or whatever. But still, I don't find that particular investment vehicle awfully attractive in this situation. We're talking about an 18-year-old who's going to be working part-time, so hasn't earned income coming. And so opening up a retirement account, and specifically a Roth IRA, where he can take that $250 and contribute it to that Roth IRA and then contribute 25% of his earnings every time he gets paid. Well, now we're talking, because the Roth IRA is a retirement vehicle that has him planning for the long haul, and it can be invested in the market where it's going to make much better than 4 or 5%. If it was even in a S&P 500 index fund, well, it will have averaged 17% over the last 5 years. And so I would strongly encourage you to start thinking about having your son invest into a retirement account. Roth, because you're contributing with after-tax dollars, the growth and the withdrawals later in life are tax-free. And so that is a great investment opportunity for a young person who is starting to earn income. And then again, once he starts earning that income, he can take the $250 from the $1,000 and invest it. And then there's this other investment option that I think is highly overlooked, and that's the idea of investing in self and self-employment. And so earlier we said that your son would have $550 to spend however he wants. Let him make some mistakes, but also give him some guidance on how to categorize that $550 into some wants, into some needs. And so one of those could be taking money, investing it in himself. That could be taking a course and learning a very specific trade so that he can then market that trade and make money from that trade. So let me give you an example. Imagine if he took an online course that taught him how to do some copywriting. And so he learns the trade of copywriting, and then he promotes himself as a freelance copywriter, and he starts to get jobs from that. Well, let's say the course costs $200. I'm making these numbers up, but let's say the course costs $200, and your son invests that $200 into himself, and he markets himself as a freelance copywriter, and somebody hires him, and on that first project, they pay him $150. Well, he just made a significant return on that investment. By the second job, if he gets another $150, he's now made $300 off of a $200 investment. And then that's going to be perpetual for the rest of his life. And so this idea of investing is not just investing in a high yield savings account or an iBond or even retirement, but it can be an investment in self, finding a way to increase one's knowledge, skills, and abilities, to market those knowledge, skills, and abilities to others, and establish a flow of income from that. I'll give another brief example. My kids wanted to start their own little concession stand. So taking a $100 investment and buying up goods that they then resold and made a profit from. And so being able to kind of establish your own little self-employment status, a freelancing job, or a little side hustle is a great way to invest in oneself and really get a great return on that money. Putting let's say again $200, putting $200 in the market, even at 17%, it would have made $34. Okay, so $200 made $34, or $200 invested in myself can make me 150, 10 times over again, infinite number of times over again, whatever that looks like. And so just thinking about investing in oneself is another great way to think about investing. Now, let me be clear. I would suggest that this investment come from the 55% of spending, not the 25% that we're doing in investing specifically, because we want that to be long-term investing. We want that money to be growing on its own. We want to be contributing to it often so that when we look up 30, 40, 50 years later, we are looking at quite a nest egg. So out of the 55% that we're going to be spending, and in this case, the $550, I would recommend encouraging your son to invest some of that in himself in some way, shape, or form that allows him to be self-employed or allows him to side hustle sometime in the relatively near future. Hey there, budgeteers. Are you tired of feeling like your finances are running the show? Well, it's time to flip the script and take charge of your money with New Money Habits Financial Coaching. This isn't your typical financial advice. New Money Habits is about empowering you with the knowledge and tools you need to make savvy money moves and build a solid financial foundation. Here's the deal. We're offering a free discovery session to kickstart your journey to financial freedom. Yep, you heard me right. Free. In this session, one of our experienced coaches will help you to pinpoint your financial goals and create a better plan for your money. We're talking about mastering your money mindset, picking up practical money management skills, and having someone to hold you accountable along the way. So, if you're ready to kiss financial stress goodbye and say hello to a brighter financial future, then schedule your free session today to create the new money habits you need to achieve financial freedom. And so I want to close out by addressing what it is that we're working towards here. With this scenario that Devon has given us and her 18-year-old son, we're looking at taking somebody who is currently financially dependent, and we're going to move this person towards being financially independent. And now he's not going to be financially independent tomorrow. He's going to continue to be financially dependent, as Devon said, that he's going to be living at home for the next 2 years, working part-time as he goes to school full-time. But let me kind of define financial dependency. And I want you to think about this in terms of fully grown adults out in the world independently, but still financially dependent. A financially dependent person is somebody who needs help from family, friends, or the government to make their ends meet. And so we don't want our 18-year-old son to become a 32-year-old man one day who is still in need of help from family, friends, or the government to make ends meet. So we're at a critical point where we can teach healthy money habits to help move the 18-year-old from financially dependent to financially independent. So what does it look like to be financially independent? Well, a financially independent person may be struggling, but they're able to pay all of their own bills. And so they don't need to borrow money from mom and dad or from friends, and they're not on any government assistance programs. And so they're financially independent. And so again, we're trying to move this young man from financially dependent to financially independent. But what we really want for this 18-year-old is by the age of 35, 45, or 55, we truly want this young man to be financially free. And so what does that look like? To be financially free means he works because he wants to, not because he has to. And if we can establish good, healthy money habits today, giving, saving, investing, and spending wisely, well, then we can help this 18-year-old look up in 20 years or in 30 years, and he can be financially free. He could be working because he wants to, not because he has to. Maybe because he has a nest egg. Maybe because he's already made it big doing his own thing. And so by establishing good, healthy, foundational money habits today, We can place this young man on a road to success for the future. And I'll tell you, if he can do this at 18, he's going to be even better off than some of the younger folks that I work with. I'm currently working with a collection of young adults in their mid-20s, and each of them are doing these things where they are giving, they are saving, they're investing, and they're spending wisely. And they are already on a great path. But they're already in their mid-20s. So this young man at 18 coming out of high school could have an additional 7 years on these mid-20s who are getting it now, who are already light years ahead of people in their 30s and 40s who have never done these things. So if we can help the young man do this now, he will be on an incredibly sound financial path well into his future and well before he has responsibilities that demand he be wise with his money. That does it for this episode of the New Money Habits Podcast. Remember, if you have any questions, make sure to hit us up on social at New Money Habits and follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Please consider leaving a 5-star rating and review to help us spread this message of hope to people looking for a better plan for their money.